Hello everyone, this is again Clark and welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I did have my last vlog, and that was in the month of March, I think, yes. And I am back on track and I'm very happy to see you again. Yes, you might have noticed that the channel name is no longer Clark the Bookworm. I changed that just recently into Clark's Multifaceted World so that it's less common and with class. That's what I believe. And yes, for today's video, I'm going to talk about the books which I have just recently read over the quarantine season. There are a total of 15 books, 13 are hard copies, and 2 of them are ebook. And anyway, how is everybody after about 50 days of lockdown? How have you been? I hope you guys are doing well there. Yes. Some of us are busy watching TV. Some, are spending their time reading. Some of you are doing TikTok, yes, or doing videos. But whatever it is that you're doing, for as long as you're happy with it, yes, you deserve that. Yes, it's just about right. Okay, I'll be talking about the books which I have just recently read one by one. But before I start discussing with you each book which I have just recently read, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'm pretty much sure that you're familiar with the majority of the books which I have just recently read because of their popularity, or perhaps they are overhyped. Although sadly, there are a few of them here which I think you're not familiar because they might be underhyped, or probably they are not the talk of the book world. But anyway, despite the popularity of the book, I am still very much excited to share with you its premise. First on the list was written by my all-time favorite author, Sidney Sheldon, and the title of this book is Are You Afraid of the Dark? This one, in fact, belongs to the category of mystery thriller with a little touch of science fiction. This one is all about the two ladies, Diane Stevens and Kelly Harris, I think, yes, whose husband demise are very controversial. Yes, why? It is because their death actually is connected to the powerful environmental think tank. They disappeared into the ether and their death is something questionable. And yes, while they are actually on their journey to find out what really happened to their husband, something really happened along the way. And yes, while they had some disagreement in the beginning of the book, in the middle or somewhere in the end, they actually have agreed on something. I actually read this when I was in college, but I decided to reread it this season because this is so timely. This issue is I think it's not just timely, it's timeless. Yes, it is in this particular novel I was able to find out that there are certain technology which can control or alter the balance of the nature, especially on weather. Yes. This book received 4.5 stars from me. This is really highly recommended. Next on the list is si Amapola sa 65 kabanata, written by Ricky Lee. Yes, this is in fact his second novel. First one was Para Kay B, and I was able to read that when I was in college. And yes, this is a satirical novel. This one is about Amapola, who became in fact a manananggal in the year 2010 during the election. And in fact, he was or she was prophesied to save the Philippines from any sort of corruption. I so love this book because of its metaphor, because of its, satire, of course. It discusses social ills, political, corruptions, and grabs, of course. That really made me actually, continue reading all the chapters of this book. Because I find this book socially relevant and interesting to read, I gave this 5 stars. This is highly recommended, especially for people who would like to know about, the political climate in the Philippines. And of course, this is done in a very much light way. Yes, it's light because there are lots of jokes here. Yeah, imagine that the character in fact is Amapola, who is an impersonator. You will really laugh out loud here. The third novel I got the chance to read this quarantine season is Pandora, written by another Filipino author, Krishma Lurin. This one is a dystopian novel. Yes, futuristic novel set in a post-apocalyptic world where people live underground. And the underground there is called Cajon. And it's a multi-layered, composed of three layers. We have the upper layer, the second layer, and the third layer. In the first and second layers are where the novels actually are living. Yes, and they are actually leading, the particular place or world. And they are very oppressive. And in the particular bottom, yes, this one in fact, is a home to slaves. They serve the novels. And the main character here is Leo, a 16-year-old guy, who because of her or his hardships, in that level of Cajon, would like to go outside of the specific place. He wanted to know whether or not there's still life there outside. Yes. Yes, had it not been for several errata of this book, this could have gotten, 4.5 stars from me. But because of that, yes, I am so OC about those mistakes. Yes, it really affected my reading experience. That is why I'm giving this book 3.8. The next book is a historical fiction written by Marcus Zusak titled The Boot Thief. This one is set in Germany in the year 1939, where death has never been busier. The main character here is Liesel Memminger, whose life in fact changed after she was able to find a particular object that was in fact a book titled The Gravedigger's Handbook, left there by accident at her father's funeral. After that, her life changed, and that is in fact the first act of book thievery that she had. To make the matter worse, her life in fact turned upside down after her foster family, was hiding a specific Jew in their basement. Yes, and the life of that particular Jew was in fact, connected with that of Liesel Memminger. I'd like you to find out what happened in this book, but that's the premise of it. Well, this book is impressive, but it's not as impressive compared with All the Light That We Cannot See, which I'm going to, to feature in the next. I gave this book 4 stars. Next on the list is All the Light That We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. This is a historical fiction which follows the stories of the two main characters that we do have here. And that's Marie Lohr, the female character, and Werner. Marie lived with her father, who works as the master of thousands of locks in a museum in Paris. And at the age of 6, she became blind. That's already the start of the changes in her life. At the age of 12, the war between France and Germany became much more intense. That is why she and her father has to fled from that place to the walled citadel of Saint Malo, where his uncle or her uncle actually lived. The uncle is a reclusive one due to the trauma that he developed from the previous war. And yes, along with what they have, when they actually leave the place, is a very important gem, which is also considered to be the most dangerous one, and it's where the story actually revolves. Meanwhile, in the mining town in Germany, there lived the orphan Werner, who grew up with his younger sister, enchanted by the crude radio they found when they were playing. Starting that time, Werner developed his interest in radio, and he became expert at fixing and creating this crucial instrument during that time. This particular skill he has actually wins him to join a specific academy, and that is in fact a brutal academy for Hitler Youth. Werner was given a special assignment to track resistance. More and more aware of the human cost of his intelligence, he traveled through the heart of war until finally she reached Saint Malo, where his story and that of Marie Lohr's converged. What I like about this book is that it is filled with imagery and metaphor, not to mention the super amazing character development. I also love how the chapters are divided or chopped. This book received 5 stars from me. This is highly recommended. The next book is Pax This one is a middle grade fiction. Pax and Peter have been inseparable ever since Peter rescued him as a kid. But one day, the unimaginable happens. His father enlists in the military and makes him return Pax to the wild, and he lives with his grandfather. Told in the perspectives of Pax and Peter, this heart-wrenching novel mentions the struggles of both characters just to find their way back together. This melted my heart when I read this one. Yes, and because of that, I gave this book 4.5 stars. The seventh book I read this season is More Than This by Patrick Ness. This is a science fiction. A boy drowns, desperate, alone in his final moment. He dies. But eventually, he wakes, bruised, naked, and thirsty, but alive. How can this be? What is this strange place where he wakes up? That is something that you will find it interesting, but I'm pretty much sure there is more than this book. Find it out yourself. This is, in fact, a highly recommended book. That is why I gave this 5 stars as well. I so love Patrick Ness. The next isolation books I had are the books 1 and 2 of the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. The first book is Mistborn's Final Empire, and the second one here is The Well of Ascension. These are epic reads and considered to be adult fantasy reads as well. I'm not going to be talking about the second book of Mistborn, The Well of Ascension, because I don't want to spoil you of the ending of the first book, Mistborn. And yes, this one is about the particular Mistborn Vin, who in the Final Empire for thousands of years, Lord Ruler has been oppressively leading the nation. He is known to be very oppressive in the way he treated the Ska, who are considered the slaves of the Final Empire. There had been several revolts made against him, but to no avail. Every revolution made has become a failure. People believe that Lord Ruler is immortal and powerful, and that no matter what you do, you will never defeat that particular emperor. But there's this specific person, Kelshir, who form a group, with the majority of Ska as members. He believed that they will be able to overthrow Lord Ruler. And this book actually mentions how it's going to happen. I'd like you to find it out yourself. I'm not gonna spoil you of the specific detail of what actually transpired in this book. Find it out yourself. This book is one of my favorite, and this got 5 stars. And along with that, the second book got 5 stars from me. The next books I read are a duology written by Glen Marsh, and this is called The Reign of the Fallen duology, the first book, and the second one, The Song of the Dead. These are YA fantasy. Just like what I did a moment ago, I'm not gonna talk about the second book, Song of the Dead, because I don't want to preempt you of what really happened here in The Reign of the Fallen. Yes, I'd like you to find it out yourself. No spoiler. The heroine of the book is Odessa. She is one of Karcha's master necromancer, catering to the kingdom's ruling dead. Whenever a noble dies, it is her responsibility to raise them by retrieving their souls from the dreamy and dangerous world called Deadlands. There is a price to pay, however, when raising a dead. The dead must remain covered or shrouded. If even a hint of flesh is exposed, expect that there's going to be a very horrible transformation. Yes, from being a dead who rules the world or that particular kingdom, he becomes a particular bloodthirsty shade, a monster. One day, a dramatic uptick in Shade's attack occurred in Karthia, and that prompted Odessa along with other necromancers to fight them. Along with Odessa and the necromancers are other powerful people, the healer. We also have the beastmasters here. And yes, they have to exhaust their overwhelming all to defeat the Shades. And that's where actually the story became more interesting, the Shade attacks. What I like about this duology, it's its magic system. It's very simplistic in approach. In fact, there are only 5 of them. The first one is necromancy. In fact, that's the most important magic here. Second is Beastmaster. We also have the Weather Mage, the fourth one, we have the Inventor. Yes. And the fifth one, the Healers. Yes. I so love this book. The development or the progression of events here are easy to follow. That is why I recommend this book. This is in fact an impressive YA fantasy. I gave both of these books, Reign of the Fallen and Song of the Dead, 5 stars. The third to the last book I've read is a YA romance, History is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. I love this book because it pierced my heart through its core. It made me cry for 1 week. Yes, I was in fact very emotional over this book. Yes, I really love this. That is why I gave this 5 stars. And as to its premise, it's all about Teo and Griff. Yes. When Griffin's love and ex-boyfriend Teo dies in a drowning accident, his universe implodes. Even though Teo moved to California for study and started seeing Jackson, Griffin never doubted that one day Teo would come back to him and they are going to fulfill their promises. But that future he's been imagining actually disappeared into the ether, and it in fact has gone far. To make the matter worse, the only person who understands his heartaches is Jackson, Teo's boyfriend when he died. But no matter how they open up to each other, Griffin's downward spiral continues, and that is so sad to think about. And if I were Griffin, I would have, felt the same. Griffin has been losing himself in his obsessive compulsions and destructive choices, as well as his secret he's been keeping for so long are tearing him apart. For him to rebuild his future, he is bound to face the history that he had. Yes, every last heartbreaking piece in the puzzle of his life matters. I love this book. It wrenched my heart to pieces, as I said a moment ago. That is why I gave this 5 stars. The last 2 novels I read are in ebook format. That's Spilled Milk by K.L. Randis, and the other one here is Teacher's Secret by Suzanne Liao. To be honest, I don't like these books. That is why I gave them 2 stars. Yeah, maybe it's just about me. Maybe these books are not meant for me. I really found it hard to connect with these books. Yeah, and although I managed to finish these books, it felt like I was just dragging myself to do so. Yeah, I don't have so much to talk about these books. In fact, I'm not gonna recommend it to you. That's why, yeah, let's just end it there. Yeah. Those are all in all the 15 isolation books I have read over the quarantine season. And I'm hoping that I'd still be able to read more, considering the fact that there are still 2 weeks before the lockdown is going to be lifted. Hopefully, this is going to be the last lockdown extension. And yes, I wish as well that you'd be able to read one of the books I have mentioned a moment ago. I'd recommend those books which receive 5 stars from me. This is again Clark, and before I end this video, kindly click the like button and of course subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much and have a good day.